I bought the house with my own money. I like starting there because that's where everything began to go wrong. It was not a dream mansion or anything like that, just a small 2-story home on a quiet street with a maple tree in the front yard and a porch swing I painted myself one summer. It smelled like fresh paint and new beginnings when I first moved in. To me, it felt like proof that I wasn't behind in life, like everyone kept hinting. I wasn't still figuring it out. I had figured it out. I had a steady job, no kids, no drama, and a place I could finally call mine. And then my brother showed up. Mark has always been the charming one, the one my mom bragged about, the one who just needed a little more time to mature, even though his idea of maturing was switching from video games to sports betting. He was the oldest, then me, then our younger sister. Somehow, I was always the one holding everything together while Mark held nothing and still had both hands open. One night, Mark called. His voice was softer than usual. "Hey, Lena," he said, "can we talk?" We hadn't really talked in months. He usually only called when he needed a ride or a loan or someone to co-sign something. I braced myself. "What's going on?" I asked. He sighed, long and heavy. Things are rough. We got evicted. The landlord's a jerk. The kids, they're sleeping on an air mattress at Tanya's mom's house. You know how cramped it is over there. Could we, just for a little while, stay at your place, just until we get back on our feet? Just for a little while. Those 5 words have started more disasters than any storm. How long is a little while? I asked. 2 weeks, 3 max. I swear, I could already hear my mother's voice in my head if I said no. How can you turn your own family away when you have a whole house to yourself? So I said the word that changed everything. Okay, he exhaled with relief. You're a lifesaver, Lena, seriously. You won't even know we're there. That turned out to be the biggest lie of all. They arrived on a Saturday morning with more stuff than anyone brings for 2 or 3 weeks. Not 2 suitcases, not a few bags, a moving truck. I walked outside, still in pajamas, and saw it parked in front of my house like a bad omen. Mark jumped down from the cab, grinning like this was some surprise party. "Hey, we made good time," he said. "What is all this?" I asked, staring at the boxes, the furniture, the rolled-up rugs. "Oh, you know, just our essentials." Essentials. 2 couches, a king-size mattress, 2 televisions, plastic bins with the kids' names written on them in Sharpie, their dining table, the boys' gaming chairs. My stomach knotted. This looks like everything. He waved a hand. I mean, yeah, but it'll be easier when we move to the next place. This way we are ready. Don't stress, Lena. You're tense. Tanya came around the back of the truck. She barely looked at me before she said, "Where do you want their desks? They've got homework and remote school stuff." I opened my mouth, then closed it again. The words guest room suddenly felt too small for what they were hauling. But I told myself it was temporary. I told myself I could handle a little chaos. I told myself I was being dramatic. It's funny how often we gaslight ourselves into tolerating things that hurt us, just because it's easier than saying no. The first night, they stayed in the guest room as we'd agreed. The second night, I heard dragging sounds upstairs. I went up to check and found that my guest bed had been shoved into the hallway. "What are you doing?" I asked. Mark grunted as he pushed the last corner of my mattress out of the way. "Your bed's too soft," he said. "Hurts my back. We brought ours. Don't worry. We'll keep your stuff. Somewhere." "Where?" He shrugged. "I don't know. The garage?" The guest room, which had always been simple but clean, with a comforter I'd picked out, and a little lamp that made the room glow warm at night now looked like their old bedroom, their bed, their nightstands, their things in my space. I swallowed. This was supposed to be temporary. It is temporary, he said, like I was being difficult. We're not repainting the walls or anything. Tanya laughed from the bathroom. Relax, Lena. It's just furniture. But it wasn't just furniture. It was a tiny line being crossed, and I let them cross it. The kids were next. They took over my office. I had turned the smallest bedroom into a home office when I bought the house. It was my favorite room. Light painted the walls in the afternoon, and I had my books, my plants, my desk, a small, ordered space that felt like mine. I came home from work one afternoon and found that the room was open. The desk was pushed against the wall. My neatly arranged shelves were crowded with game consoles and school folders. The boys were sprawled across the floor, their headphones in, laughing at something on the screen. My office chair was gone. Where's my chair? I asked. The older one, Jacob, glanced up like I was interrupting. In the garage, he said, because we brought ours. It's better for my back. My back. His father's words, copied and pasted, passed down like an heirloom. I found my chair later, shoved into a corner of the garage, under boxes that weren't mine. I stood there in the dim light, looking at my chair, the one I bought when I got my first promotion, and something tight and sharp moved behind my ribs. My house didn't feel like my house anymore. It felt like I was the one visiting. It didn't take long for the rules to flip. It started small. My food disappeared faster than I could buy it. Snacks I'd saved for later vanished within hours. The coffee I brought home was gone by the next morning. I started buying labels, thinking maybe they didn't realize. I wrote my name on a carton of orange juice. The next day, it was half empty. I thought we were family, Tanya said when I asked. Why are you labeling things? That's so petty. Family, a word people like that throw around when it benefits them. The noise never stopped. Late-night TV, loud arguing about sports, the kids gaming in my old office until after midnight. I'd wake up for work feeling like I hadn't slept at all. I tried talking to Mark. One night, when the kids were in bed and Tanya was scrolling on her phone, I sat across from him at the kitchen table. We need to talk about some boundaries, I said. He raised an eyebrow. Boundaries? I can't sleep. My food's gone. My office. That's not your office anymore, he interrupted. I blinked. Excuse me? It's the kids' room now, he said. You barely used it anyway. You're always at work. I stared at him. I work to pay for this house, I said. This isn't a dorm. This is my home. He smirked. Our home. For now. Something about the way he said our made my skin crawl. I tried again. You said 2 or 3 weeks. He shrugged. Life happens. Have you been looking for places? Yeah, he said, looking down at his phone. It's just, rent is crazy right now. It's better if we stay here until things calm down. It's not like you need all this space. Not like you need all this space. My paycheck, my mortgage, my name on every bill. He said it like I was hoarding a resource. That night I lay awake on my bed, my one space they hadn't taken yet, and realized how trapped I was. If I kicked them out, my mother would come down on me like a hammer. She worshipped Mark. He's struggling, she'd say. You know how hard it is for a man to ask for help? You should be proud he trusts you. If I let them stay, they'd turn my house into theirs, piece by piece. Either way, I lost. Unless I stopped playing the game by their rules. Things got worse before they got better. Entitled people always push until they hit something solid. For weeks, I tried to keep the peace. I went to work, came home, locked myself in my room, watched shows on my laptop with headphones in. My house felt like a shared waiting room where I didn't have a reserved seat. Then the garage incident happened. I had worked a 12-hour shift that day. Traffic was terrible. My back hurt. My feet ached. I just wanted to take a hot shower and crawl into bed. I pulled into the driveway and noticed something strange. My living room couch was sitting on the porch. My couch, outside, in the cold. I got out of the car slowly, feeling like I'd stepped into a dream that was turning into a nightmare. I walked up the steps, touched the arm of the couch. It was damp from the cold evening air. The front door was cracked open. Light spilt out. I heard voices, loud laughing. I walked in and froze. They had rearranged my entire living room. Their big gray sectional sat where my couch used to be. My coffee table, the one my friend helped me build, was pushed into a corner, covered in coats. The TV was moved. My photos were taken off the wall and stacked face down on the floor. "What is this?" I asked. Tanya looked up from the dining table, where she was scrolling on her phone. "Oh, hey," she said. "We redecorated. It was time for a change." "We?" I repeated. "The old couch didn't fit our style," she said. "This looks much better." I turned to Mark. "Why is my couch outside?" He shrugged. "We didn't have room for both." "This is my house," I said slowly, like maybe they had forgotten. Tanya snorted. "We live here too. You act like we're strangers." And that's when Mark said it, the line that wiped away whatever patience I had left. "You're being ungrateful," he said. "You should be happy the house finally feels like a home." Ungrateful, as if they were doing me a favor by taking over everything I'd built. I pointed toward the door. "Move my couch back inside, now." He leaned back in the chair, folding his arms. "No, if you don't like it, sleep in your room, or the garage, whatever." The garage. He said it like it was reasonable, like I was the one out of line. I didn't yell. Something inside me went very quiet instead. I walked down the hall, opened the door to the garage, and flipped on the light. My stomach dropped. The garage, once neat and organized, was stuffed with their boxes. My tools were hidden. My bike was wedged behind their old dresser. Even my holiday decorations were on top of a stack of their plastic bins, like an afterthought. There was nowhere for me, not even there. I stood in the garage, surrounded by other people's things, in a house I paid for, and realized the truth. They didn't see me as family. They saw me as housing, and housing was not supposed to have feelings. That was the night something hardened in me. I walked back inside. They were still laughing at something on TV. The kids were scrolling on their phones. My couch was still outside, like it had never belonged there to begin with. I went upstairs, closed my door, sat on my bed, and whispered to myself, "They don't know who they're playing with." That was the night the revenge began. Not the loud kind, the cold kind, the kind that looks like nothing on the surface until it's too late to stop it. The first thing I did was call a lawyer. I found a local property attorney with good reviews and booked a consultation. I didn't tell my family. I took the call in my car during lunch, parked under a tree where the Wi-Fi still reached. I explained everything, how they moved in temporarily, how there was no lease, no rent, no agreement, how they took over the house and refused to listen when I tried talking to them. The lawyer asked one question that made everything click. "Whose name is on the deed?" "Mine," I said. "Whose name is on the mortgage?" "Mine." "Whose name is on the utility bills?" "Mine." He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "You're not stuck." You only feel stuck because they're your family. Legally, they're occupants without a lease. You can give notice, follow the process, and have them removed if they refuse. Removed. The word sounded harsh. But then I thought about my couch outside in the cold. I thought about my office, my bedroom, my food, my sleep, my peace, and the harshness faded. "What's the process?" I asked. He laid it out step by step. Written notice, time frame, documentation. If they didn't leave, formal eviction. If they fought back, the recordings and texts and photos would matter. Keep everything, he said. Every message, every time they ignore you, every time they cross a line. Don't yell. Don't threaten. Be calm. Judges like calm. I smiled for the first time in days. "Oh," I said, "I can be very calm." The next phase was evidence. I didn't start a fight. I didn't make a scene. I didn't slam a single door. I became quiet. Quiet like the deep part of a lake. I started saving everything. Every disrespectful text. Every time they said our house instead of your house. Every time they refused to clean up, pay for groceries, or contribute to anything. I bought a small camera and set it up in the living room with a wide view, pointed at the hallway where the front door, the kitchen, and the stairs all crossed. I didn't hide it. I didn't have to. They assumed it was something for security, and honestly, it was. One night, I overheard Tanya on the phone with her friend. "No, we're not paying rent," she said. "It's her house. She doesn't have kids. It's literally sitting there. She should be glad we keep it from feeling empty. If she asks for money, we'll just say we help with the kids or whatever. She's too scared of Mom to push it." I sat on the stairs, out of view, and pressed record on my phone. Mark told a coworker on speaker once, "Yeah, man, we're basically living for free. My sister's too soft to kick us out. Whole house, no rent, it's sick." He laughed. I saved that too. The kids joked about Auntie's mood swings and how she acts like we took something that belongs to her. They laughed about how they'd moved my things to the garage and replaced them, all in front of that camera, all while I sat upstairs listening, waiting. Every clip, every audio file I saved to a folder on my laptop named Insurance. The irony wasn't lost on me. But entitlement rarely sits still. Just when you think you've seen the worst of it, it mutates. One Friday, I came home to find 3 extra cars in the driveway and voices I didn't recognize coming from the backyard. I walked through the side gate and froze. They were throwing a party, not a small cookout, not a casual family get-together, a full party, coolers, loud music, a rented inflatable for the kids, folding tables lined with food I hadn't been told about. There were people I'd never seen before, lounging in my patio chairs, putting their drinks on my little outdoor table. And there was Mark, holding a beer, laughing with a group of his friends. He saw me and grinned like I was the guest. "Hey, you made it. We weren't sure when you'd be back." "What is this?" I asked. "Just a little gathering," he said. "We needed to blow off steam. It's been stressful." Tanya walked by with a tray of cups. "Can you bring out more ice from the freezer?" she asked me. "We're running low." I stared at her. "You're throwing a party in my house without asking," I said. She rolled her eyes. "You act like you're the landlord or something." "I am the landlord." "Well, landlords don't live in the houses," she snapped back. "You need to decide if you want to be family or a landlord." "It's my name on the mortgage," I said. "Did you ask me before bringing 20 strangers here?" Mark put a hand on my shoulder like I was overreacting. "Relax," he said. "Don't embarrass yourself, or us. People can hear you." That was the moment I almost exploded. I could feel the words boiling up, the urge to scream, to shove them all out right there. But then I remembered the lawyer's voice. Judges like calm. So I did something that surprised even me. I smiled. I said, "You're right. I shouldn't embarrass anyone." I walked inside, took my phone, and filmed the entire party from a distance. The cars blocking part of the street, the open containers, the way someone had knocked over one of my potted plants and left dirt everywhere. I filmed it all and filed it away in my folder. Then I went upstairs, closed my door, and started writing. The letter began. "Dear Mark and Tanya, this is a written notice that you are no longer welcome to stay in my home. I printed 2 copies, one for them, one for the court, if it came to that." The letter laid out everything in clear, simple terms. They had 30 days to vacate the property. They were not paying rent. They had no lease. They were failing to maintain the home and violating my trust. I gave it to them 2 days later, after the last of the party trash had been thrown halfway into garbage bags and left by the door. Mark read the first few lines, then laughed. "You're joking," he said. "I'm not," I replied. "You're going to evict your own family?" "I'm going to protect my home," I said. Tanya skimmed it, her face tightening. "You think some piece of paper is going to scare us? We have mail coming here now. The kids are registered with this address. You can't just throw us out like old furniture." "You don't have a lease," I said calmly. "You're guests. Guests who have worn out their welcome." Mark stepped closer, trying to look intimidating. If this were a movie, maybe he would have made me flinch. I didn't move. "You're not serious," he said quietly. "Mom will never forgive you." There it was again. The threat was dressed as a warning. "You can tell Mom whatever you want," I replied. "But I'd save your energy. You'll need it to pack." He crumpled the paper in his fist. "You're cruel," he said. I thought about my couch on the porch, my office turned into a gaming den, my food eaten, my boundaries mocked, my home treated like a free Airbnb. "No," I said. "For months, I've been kind. This is what fair looks like." He tossed the letter on the table and stormed away, yelling over his shoulder, "We're not going anywhere." That night, I emailed my lawyer copies of the letter and the videos. His reply came within an hour. "You've done everything correctly so far," he wrote. "If they don't leave by the deadline, we file." For the first time since they moved in, I slept like the bed beneath me was actually mine again. They tried everything in those 30 days. Guilt. "We have nowhere else to go. How can you toss your own family out in this economy?" Blame. "If you weren't so uptight, this wouldn't be a problem. You should have said something sooner if you didn't like it." Manipulation. "You're going to regret this when you're old and alone." Smear. I found out later that they told my mother and extended family that I snapped for no reason, that I was unstable, that success had changed me. For the first 2 weeks, anytime my phone rang and Mom's name appeared, my heart jumped. I knew she would take their side. She always had. So I didn't answer. Not yet. I forwarded everything to my lawyer instead. Meanwhile, something interesting happened. The more they realized I was serious, the more desperate they became. One night, I overheard them whispering in the kitchen. "We could just change the mailing address permanently," Tanya said. "If everything comes here, it's like proof we live here." "That doesn't matter," Mark muttered. "She has the deed, unless we get on it somehow." "Can't she add us?" Mark paused. "If we convince Mom to talk to her, maybe we can guilt her into keeping it in the family, you know? Make it look like we're protecting her investment." I held my breath in the hallway. They weren't just planning to stay. They were planning to somehow pressure me into giving them ownership. That's when my revenge plan evolved. I didn't just want them out. I wanted them to understand, in a way they would never forget, that my kindness was not a weakness. It was an opportunity they squandered. 2 weeks before the deadline, my mother showed up at my door. She didn't text, didn't call, just knocked like it was her house, like she'd done when I was a teenager and she came over to check on me, but mostly to critique my life. I opened the door. She walked in without waiting, went straight to the kitchen like she'd rehearsed this. "What is this I hear about you kicking your brother out on the street?" she said. "He has 30 days, I replied. "That's more than most landlords give." She turned around slowly, eyes narrowed. "A landlord," she repeated. "You talk like he's a stranger." "He acts like I'm one," I said. She scoffed. "He's your brother, Lena. Blood, family. He's struggling. You're fine. You have a good job, no kids, a whole house. If anyone should sacrifice, it's you." I felt my jaw tighten. I have sacrificed my space, my sleep, my peace, my things, and he doesn't care. He doesn't contribute. He doesn't respect me or this home. She waved a hand like I was making it up. "You've always been dramatic, ever since you were little. You need to be less sensitive." Sensitive, because I cared when people walked all over me. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw what I had never wanted to see. The reason Mark turned out the way he did. He learned entitlement from somewhere. "Do you know they're trying to throw parties here without my permission?" I asked. "Do you know they put my couch outside because it didn't fit their style? Do you know they've told people they live here rent-free because I'm too soft to do anything about it?" My mother's lips pressed together, but not in surprise, in irritation. "You should have talked to me," she said. "I did," I replied. "You told me to be grateful they filled the house with life." She ignored that. "He told me you're threatening them, that you're changing. You're not the Lena I raised." She was right about that. "I hope not," I said softly. Her eyes flashed. "What is that supposed to mean?" "It means the Lena you raised would have kept letting them use her," I said. "This version won't." Her voice hardened. "If you go through with this, don't come crying to me when karma comes around. You're turning your back on your own blood." I almost laughed at that. Karma had already come around. She lived in my house and was packing her boxes. "I'm not turning my back," I said. "I'm closing my door." Mom shook her head in disbelief, grabbed her purse, and walked to the front door. "I'm disappointed in you," she said. I swallowed the lump in my throat and said, "Yeah, I'm disappointed it took me this long." When the door shut behind her, I leaned against it and let the quiet settle. It hurt. Of course it hurt. But pain is not always a sign that you're wrong. Sometimes it's just a sign that you're breaking a pattern that should have been broken years ago. The deadline day came. Mark and his family were still there. No boxes packed. No cars loaded. The house looked like it always did. Theirs. They were betting I would fold. Instead, I called my lawyer. He filed the paperwork. The court date was set. It felt surreal, seeing my name on a legal document next to the words plaintiff and eviction. But it also felt right. The night before the hearing, Mark knocked on my door. For the first time in months, his voice was small. "Can we talk?" he asked. I opened the door, but didn't step aside. He shifted on his feet. "You're really doing this?" "Yes," I said. "Over what? Some furniture? A party? You're going to put your nephews out over..." "What? Hurt feelings?" My chest tightened. "This isn't about furniture. It's about respect." He shook his head slowly. "You're going to regret this." I thought about my future, my peace, my ability to walk in my own home without feeling like a stranger. No, I said. I think this is the first decision I won't regret. He exhaled sharply and walked away. I closed the door and got ready for court. Court wasn't like TV. It was boring and dull and full of paperwork. The judge didn't slam a gavel or make dramatic speeches. He just read, listened, and asked questions in a flat voice. "Do the defendants pay rent?" he asked. "No, Your Honor," I said. "Do they have a lease?" "No." "Do they contribute to utilities or maintenance?" "No." "Do you have evidence that they've disrespected the property and refused to leave after proper notice?" "Yes," I said, "on this flash drive." My lawyer played clips. Tanya bragging about free housing, Mark laughing about not paying a cent, the kids mocking me for acting like I owned the place. The party in the backyard, the mess inside, the couch on the porch. The judge's expression didn't change, but I saw his eyes harden. He turned to them. "Do you have a legal right to remain in this property?" he asked Mark. "We're family," Mark said. "She's making a big deal out of nothing." "This is a court of law," the judge replied, "not a family dinner." There was a quiet murmur in the room. The judge signed the order. They had 7 days. After that, a sheriff would escort them out if they remained. It was done. Not with screaming, not with drama, with ink on paper and the quiet cold weight of consequence. The last week was loud, slamming doors, passive-aggressive comments, long, drawn-out sighs whenever I walked into a room. Tanya cried loudly on the phone to anyone who would listen about how I had kicked them out with nowhere to go. She left boxes half-packed in the hallways, like visual guilt bombs. I didn't take the bait. I went to work. I came home. I stayed in my room. On the 7th day, a patrol car pulled up outside. The sheriff knocked. They were forced to finish packing. The sheriff watched while Mark and Tanya carried box after box to their car and the borrowed truck. The kids were quiet for once. The house echoed, every item removed, leaving a hollow where their noise had once been. When the last box was loaded, Mark turned to me. "You're dead to me," he said. I nodded. "At least now I'll get some rest." He opened his mouth like he might lunge at me. The sheriff stepped between us. "That's enough," the officer said. "It's time to go." They drove away. No goodbye, no last glance, just gone. I stood on the porch watching the dust settle, listening to the silence. For the first time in months, my couch was inside. My office was empty, waiting for my desk. My garage was mine again. The house felt lighter, like it was relieved too. In the weeks that followed, my mother didn't call. Word got around the family, of course. Some took their side, some didn't. But something happened that I didn't expect. My younger sister reached out. She texted me late one night. "I heard what happened. I'm proud of you. I've been scared to set boundaries with Mom and Mark. You did it first." We had coffee a few days later. She confessed that Mark had tried to borrow money from her too, that he'd told her his plan to somehow get his name added to my house for security. She said, "He figured you'd give in because you always do." I smiled, not because it was funny, but because it was finally over. "Not anymore," I said. We sat on my porch swing, the one I'd painted years ago, and for the first time, the house felt full in the right way, full of peace, full of choice, full of my life on my terms. Some people hear this story and say, "But they were your family. How could you do that?" I ask a different question. If they were truly my family, how could they do that to me? Family isn't a license to use someone. Family isn't a free pass to ignore boundaries. Family isn't an excuse to turn a person's home into a free resource. If anything, family should be the first place respect lives. And if it doesn't, then sometimes the coldest, cleanest revenge is simply closing your doors and watching what happens when the people who took you for granted lose access to you. They thought I was weak because I didn't yell. They thought I was soft because I didn't fight. They thought I was a doormat because I let them in. What they didn't understand was this: I wasn't weak. I was waiting. And when I finally acted, I didn't just make them move. I made sure they would never, ever forget the day their favorite free resource stopped being available. Revenge wasn't me screaming at them. Revenge was calmly reclaiming everything that was mine. If you've ever been used, disrespected, or treated like your kindness was something people were entitled to, remember this: you don't have to become cruel to protect yourself. You just have to stop allowing cruel people to live off your kindness. And if you want more stories like this, where the underdog finally stands up, where the entitled finally face consequences, then stick around. Subscribe and follow us on this channel, because next time I might be telling a story that feels a little too close to your own. And maybe, just maybe, hearing how someone else got their life back will help you take the first step toward getting yours back too.